snowbird project or the cardinal project, these are some of the supplies that you will need. You will need something to put your paint on. You will need white and black paint. There are alternate directions given during the video. If you don't have access to these, you'll need a paintbrush. You will need some kind of glue. I have found that although I love glue stick, it does not work that well with the painted papers that we're going to be using because they're thick. This is the best kind of glue to use. If you don't have access to it, Elmer's will work. And the glue stick will work, but you're probably going to have to put a lot of it on and hold it down for a while. All right, another thing you're going to need is a pencil to draw. You can also use the pencil back when we get to the snowflakes. So you're going to need that. You can use a black permanent marker or another black marker or an oil pastel, black oil pastel, scissors. You will need a piece of scratch paper that you can cut and use as a template. And you will need some kind of protection for your work surface. You will also need these painted papers that we have done in another class. So if you did not make these yet, go check out that video in this playlist. All right, I'm excited to do this project. It turns out very beautifully. Hello, today we're going to be working on the backgrounds for our paintings for our winter bird picture. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to use. And if you want to skip this step with your children, if you have blue or gray construction paper, that's fine. But we are going to do a little lesson on value in this class. So value is how light or how dark something is. And we're going to be mixing a light shade of gray and moving down toward a darker shade so that the children can see the value of that color, and you can talk about it with them. You can choose to have your paper go this way, which would be vertically, or you can move it horizontally this way. I'm going to keep mine vertical. I would suggest that you use tempera paint for this, so you'll need black and white, or you can use blue and white. I'm going to be using black and white. I don't have black and white tempera, so I'm going to be using acrylic, which is also acceptable, but not recommended for younger children, as this does not wash out of clothing or carpets. It should come off of furniture if it's a hard furniture and non-porous, but use at your own risk. If you don't have access to either of those, you can have them do markers and just move down the page light or dark, or watercolor, same thing, move from light to dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to brush this way, keeping it consistent and adding darker color as we go along. So I'm going to start with just the tiniest amount of black. And if you are using acrylic and it's too thick, or if you're using tempera and it's too thick, please add water. Mine was a little thick, so I'm adding, whoops, I don't know how that got so dark. So I'm going to be adding quite a bit of water to it. It was very thick. I want a nice smooth color. Okay, there we go. Whoops, it's darker than I thought it would be. So let's add some more white to that. Okay, and as we move down the page, we're going to add just a tiny bit more black to the paint. Get it a little bit darker and a little darker, and try to smooth it together. That's big contrast. We don't want that big of a contrast. There. I'm adding white over the top to help blend it. Okay, and then we're going to add some more of this darker color here. You can see I'm going in long, smooth strokes across the paper. I'm adding a little bit more black. We'll see how that is. That's pretty good. try to cover most of the white. We will be adding some other things on top of this. So if you don't get the whole entire page covered with the gray, it's not going to be a big deal, but try to do as best you can, or as best as your child can do in covering the page. Too much. Okay. And you can see, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's moving from light to a darker shade of gray. Until when we get to the bottom, it should be pretty dark. I'm going to speed through this a little bit, and I will catch you when I'm finishing up. Okay, you can see that my page moves from light to dark pretty smoothly. I mean, maybe here it could use a little bit of extra work smoothing it together, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So your child, you can decide if you want the lightest part to be the sky, or if you want the lightest part to be the ground, toward the ground. And we're going to let this dry, and then we will be back in a minute. Okay, our paper is dry now, and we're going to be adding some texture to it using chalk. If you don't have chalk, you can use a dry brush with some white paint to do this step. So I'll show you what I mean. This brush is pretty dry. I don't really want to use this brush. Right. This actually is like a Chinese brush, so I'm fanning it out a little bit. It's a tiny bit wet, so it's going to hold this kind of weird jaggedy shape. So I'm going to dip it in the white paint. I'm going to brush a lot of that white paint off, and then I'm just going to kind of make some light snowy marks around the edge of my paper. Okay, like this. Now I'm not going the same way, I'm going different directions. Just very, very lightly. If you're thinking about snow, right now I was thinking of a frosted window, but if you're thinking about actually being outside, just have the snow come down in one angle, just gently across your page, like this. But if you have chalk, we're going to do the same thing. Using the chalk, you're going to rub the chalk around on the edges of the paper to give it some texture and to make it look like there's some snow. Okay. I'm just kind of going around the edge. All right, and then another thing you can do is put some dots of white in for snowflakes. Now this actually isn't working as well as I thought it would for the chalk. So if you want to take the back end of your paintbrush or a pencil, anything, dip it in your white paint and just dot some snowflakes. Depending on how hard you push, you'll make them light, very small snowflakes, or you can make them bigger. And depending on how much paint is on the end of your pencil. Okay, so you're just going to do this on the background wherever you wish. If you have a Q-tip, that's another good tool to use for this, but not necessary. You don't have to hunt through your house to find it if you don't have one handy. Okay, and when you're done, you can just stop, clean off the end of your pencil or whatever you're using. We have completed the background and it looks lovely. You have painted a background that shows value, light and dark. You've given it texture with the chalk or the paint that you used and the snowflakes. All right, I'll see you in the next step. All right, we are still working on the background for our bird pictures, and now we're gonna work on making some lines. Now there's a few different kinds of lines we're gonna be using today. One is the curved line, and one is the angled line. An angled line is any line that changes direction, all right? So we're gonna think about the kind of place that our bird is sitting. And we're doing cardinals, at least that's what I'm gonna be doing. You can choose whatever color bird you want to do. So I have a bush outside of my laundry room window, and it kind of looks like a bunch of stained glass together because there's black lines everywhere that just kind of curve and angle. But what I don't want you to do is to take your tool, whatever you're using, and just scribble, because trees don't look like that. Trees actually have curves and angles, and more curves and more angles. So I want you to think about the trees that you have in your yard. If you need to take a minute, go look. You could even practice drawing a tree for a few minutes if you wanted to do that before you do this. All right, so we're gonna take an oil pastel, or if you don't have an oil pastel, you can use a Sharpie marker. But yeah, we're gonna just start. So I'm gonna draw a curved line that goes like this, and I'm going to make my lines a little thick. They're going to be thicker at the edge of the paper, and as I get toward the middle of my paper, I'm going to make them thinner like that. All right, then I'm going to think about where might my branch angle off. It could go this way. It could go this way. All right, now I'm going to think about another branch. This one's coming from this side, and it's going to curve over. I'm going to make it thicker over on the edge of the paper, because this is where it's starting from the trunk, and as I get closer and closer to the edge of the line, the end of the line, I'm going to get thinner and thinner. Then I'm going to think about where this one's going to angle off, and you can see I'm angling toward the end of the bush, the end of the twig. I am not going back this way. And you can have them crisscross even. Okay, then I'm going to do another one from this angle. This one's going to shoot down a little bit. We're making thick lines, curved lines, angled lines, beautiful lines. Okay, angling off this way. You can see that I'm thicker here where the branch meets the main branch, and thinner as I get further away from it. I'm going to make another one that curves this way. Again, thicker from here and getting thinner as I go down. I'm going to angle off. And again, it's okay if you crisscross lines. But I don't want to make too many lines. I want to make just enough so you know that this is a tree, but I don't want it to cover all of your paper, all right? So we have finished this section. We have one more thing to do for our background. Can you guess what it is? It's to add snow. Now we're going to talk about the snow is coming this way. So we're going to do just the tops of our branches. All right, we're going to add some snow to that. So get your paintbrush ready and your white paint. If you don't have white paint, you can try using the white chalk to do this. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a little pile right on the top of each of these branches. We're just going to follow the same line like that. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Oops, kind of covered that up a little bit. That's okay. Sometimes it can glob up like that. I was watching the female cardinal and she was actually biting the snow, probably to get water, but she was flying from branch to branch, just kind of biting the snow. It was really cute. Okay. Notice I'm not doing any of the undersides. I'm only doing the top. If you look out your window, if you have snow right now where you live, this is the kind of thing you're going to see. The snow doesn't really go on the bottom. It lays along the top. Okay, I'm lifting up my paintbrush and starting again and lifting up my paintbrush. Yeah. Whoop. Sometimes your paper might curl, and that's okay for right now. You just try to work around it. We'll glue it down later. All right, the other thing you can do if you really want to is pick a few places and maybe make an icicle. I don't know how this is going to work, so I'm going to do it on the edge in case I really hate it. Maybe I can cover it up with a bird. So I'm just going to make kind of a line that goes like this and comes to a point. Okay, I'm not going to make very many of these because I don't really see them in the bush that often, but there are a couple there, and I think it's because our laundry room is right next to there, so the dryer steam comes out and probably melts some of the snow and turns it to ice. Okay, the next part of the class is the drawing part. So you want to get some paper that is that you can draw on. You want to think about the size of your picture, and you want to think about the size of bird or birds that you want on your picture. You can make more than one if you wish. If you make more than one, you're going to need to make them smaller, okay? If you make one, you can make one that stands out a little bit more. All right, so we're going to be drawing a cardinal. You do not have to do a cardinal if you do not wish to, but a cardinal is the bird that I'm thinking of. And so to do that, we are going to start with a curved line, an upside down U, like this. Okay. For the cardinal, we're going to add this kind of triangle piece off the back. That's his little crest, I think is what it's called. Okay. Then we're going to make a line that goes like this, and we're going to make his beak. Okay. So an upside down U, close the U, make a feathered triangle like this, and his beak over here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a body for the bird. We're going to start out with a big teardrop shape like this. Okay, and close it at the end. So we've used a curved line, 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 an angle line, a curved line, an angle line, a curved line, an angle line, and an angle line. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is the tail feathers, and we're going to make those by making this kind of shape. Straight and then curved at the bottom. You can make more than one if you want to. Okay, my bird is kind of standing up, but what we're going to do is we're going to cut out these pieces. All right, so you're going to need your scissors and cut them out carefully. I'm going to rip this out of my sketchbook. This is our template. We're going to use this to make our birds on the, oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot the wing. How silly. Okay, so we want the wing to not be as big as this. We want it to fit inside there. I'm just going to make a teardrop shape. All right? Okay, so I will see you back after I've cut it out. You can cut yours out now. Okay, you can see my bird is cut. Now I'm going to show you that you can cut it even further because you're going to be tracing this, and maybe you don't want all of the bird to be the same color. So I cut the tail, and I will cut the head. There. Now comes the fun part. Well, it's all been fun, but now comes the really exciting part because you're going to start seeing your picture come together. So look through your painted papers. A cardinal is red, but you know, this is your cardinal. Your cardinal doesn't have to be red. It doesn't have to be one color. It could be many colors. I think for my cardinal, I'm going to use some of this paper and maybe some of this paper. So I think I'm going to make his head red because that will make him more recognizable. So what I want to do, I don't want to put my head right there because I have this big, beautiful piece of wonderful painted paper that I can use for many different projects. So I'm going to use the edge and I'm going to trace around my piece. You can use a pencil to do this. I will use this so you can see what I'm doing. It'd be kind of cool if I got his beak on that yellow part so that his beak is a different color. But if you don't have that option on your piece of paper, you can always use an oil pastel or some other way to color his beak. Or you can cut it out of a different piece of the paper. You could cut his beak out separately. Okay, there's one head. And I think I might do the tail feathers from this side. Get a little bit of that green in here. So I still have a lot of my paper. I didn't cut right in the middle. I cut on the edges. And what I'll do for this is I'll cut out these sections right here so that I have a big, nice big piece of paper that's not cut. So I'm going to cut real close to that. I'm not going to worry about the details right now. I'll cut those out later. Okay, there's 1 and 2, and then I'm going to cut the body from this piece. I like this texture here, so I'm going to see if I can get, yeah, this has some good texture over here, and it's the same color, and it's on the edge. So I'm going to do this one. Okay, there. I'm going to start assembling my bird just on the table. I'm not going to glue it yet, but I want to see how these look and maybe try to figure out what color I want to do my wing. So here is the head, not all the way cut out, I know. Here is the tail, also not all the way cut out. I wonder what color would be good. see. Should I do a green wing? I don't like the green and the purple together. But I kind of like this, and it has a lot of texture in it. I don't know if you can see that, but it has like a really, it almost looks like a feather pattern right there. So I think that's what I'm going to use for my wing. I'm actually going to make 2 wings. So I'm going to, oh, I forgot to do this. I'm going to do this once here. And once over here. I think I had too much coffee this morning. Okay, so now I have 2 wings that are similar in color, and they both have that wonderful texture on them. So I'm going to cut those out right now. I'm not going to get real fussy with the details. We'll do the fussy cutting in a minute. Okay. All right, so now we're going to carefully cut around these. Okay. There's 1 and 2. And if for some reason you have to stop and you can't finish putting your bird together, make sure that you put this in an envelope or somewhere safe, because these little pieces do get lost pretty easily. Okay, we're going to cut the head. Okay. So that fits perfectly there, and I can move the head however I want. I can also move the tail feathers however I want. I can even use my scissors to give this some extra texture here by cutting up in between. Now you don't want to cut all the way through, because then your tail feathers will be strange, but I'm cutting a little tiny triangle, I'll show you, into my feathers. Okay, so that gave them some extra texture. You don't have to do that, but you can. And I think I'm also going to maybe make some feather, like a little triangle here and a little triangle here. Just a small one, so that my wings look like they have feathers on them. Just some small angle lines, very tiny. You don't have to do this part either. Okay. So now comes the fun part. You're going to need some nice strong glue, and you're going to want to check out where you want to put your bird. So I think I want my bird to go on this branch right here. So I'm going to place his body above that branch so that when I do his legs, he has something to stand on. But you can make your bird flying. Okay. So I can choose to have his tail go up like this, or down, or stick off the page even. And then I can choose where I want his wings to go. So I think I want, maybe he just lighted on the branch. I'll have 1 wing like that and 1 wing like this. All right, so we're gonna need some glue. I like to use this tacky glue, although it's probably glued shut. I might have to open it. All right, so I'm gonna put a little glue on the head. Oh, look at that, it came out. I wanna get the edges. It doesn't matter so much about the middle, but I do want the edges. And if you have trouble controlling the amount of glue, because you don't need a lot, you can put it on a paper plate and use a Q-tip or a paintbrush that you wash out right away. All right, so I'm gonna put his head right there. And I'm gonna hold it, push down and hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, now I've already glued down part of this, so I don't have to use a whole bunch of glue. I just need a little bit on the edges. And the reason I glued down part of this is because it's on top, it's underneath the head, so the head did it. Okay, a little here and a little here. And you can spread it out with the glue bottle. Okay, and then again, I'm going to get the tail out of the way. I'm going to push that down and hold it. Push down with both hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, it's sticking really well. A little bit of glue came out. That's okay. It'll dry clear. All right, and I want to put his tail under here. So I'm going to pick that up and then glue it down again while it's still wet. Again, I don't need a lot because I'm already using the body to hold it down a little. All right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, here and here. Like that's better. You can tuck part of the wing underneath while it's still wet. You can lift up that part and then stick it down. Okay, I'm going to do the last little bit of glue here and here. All right, we'll do this wing and then we'll do the other wing and then we'll push down. It's starting to look beautiful. Some nice colorful birds on a gray wintry day. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we are going to use either a black oil pastel or a Sharpie marker, or if you don't have either of those, a black marker, just a Crayola marker, or I don't know if black tempera will work. I don't think black tempera will work very well, but it might. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make an angle line for the beak. We're going to make a circle right about here for his little eye. And cardinals have this little black mask, so we're going to make that. We're going to color it in or paint it in or whatever you're using to make your black part. There. Our cardinal bird. You can add more details if you want to. We need to add the legs, so you can either use the black Sharpie or you can go back to your oil pastel and make the little legs and feet curling around the branch. You can see that. And I think I want to add a little bit more detail to my bird. Again, this is optional. You do not have to do this. But I think I want to add some feather marks here. And here. And a few over here. I'm going to make the muscly part of the wing, and then I'm going to add the feathers here. I don't know if this bird's anatomically correct, but we're doing the best we can. Okay. I'm going to make some feather marks here too. There. You can even make those little tiny pin feathers if you want to. This adds even more texture to the top, but I don't want to cover up all the texture, so I'm not going to make all the lines I could. I'm just going to make a suggestion of the lines. Okay, and let's see what else. I kind of like the idea of putting some special feathers here so that you know that that's a cardinal even more. All right, the last thing I'm going to do is make it a little bit of his, well, we're going to make the inside of his eye black. And then if you have your white tempera paint or a red and white marker. Oh, let's make his beak line too. There. Not a red and white marker. I don't know what I'm talking about. A gel pen or the chalk. We're going to make his eye a little bit more distinguishable. My pen's not working too well. We'll see if we can get this to work. There. And I want to put a little bit of a glint in his eye. That's not working too well. So let's see what I can use. Okay. I have a white oil pastel. So I'm just going to make a little circle. I'm going to try and find a point to touch the paper with because I don't want to make a giant circle. Then I'm just going to put a little, oh, that didn't work too well either. There. That's a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to go around it again. There. Now his eye looks like it has some life to it. And there you have made a bird. If you want to make another bird, maybe a little bit different shape, you can make this more rounded, make it less big. So I'm going to do that really quick. We'll make a little buddy for him to have sit on the branch. So I'm just going to make this smaller. We'll make a female. So she's not quite as brightly colored.
for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's project.